All right, these are the three names that will be going to Cooperstown. Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, longtime teammates with the Braves, and many of you remember, of course, Glavine with the Mets at the end of his career. Frank Thomas there, longtime White Sox. They are in, but the list who are out speaks for itself. Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Mike Piazza, Sammy Sosa, Paul Mero, and Craig Biggio fell 2 votes short here. For analysis and the why, let's bring in sports writer and Hall of Fame voter Bob Klapisch, he of The Record and Fox Sports. And Bob, I'm curious, I know I read your column on how it was tough with so many on the ballot and how confusing it was with the steroid era about where to draw the lines. Was this the hardest vote you've had to cast?
It really was. In fact, I put off mailing my ballot in until December 31st, which was the last possible day to do so, because there were so many philosophical questions that remained unanswered. Who belonged in, who didn't belong in? How do you fit 10 guys in a ballot that had 39 candidates, 36 candidates and 19 new ones? It was almost impossible to really have a complete fair ballot with only 10 slots open. Somebody deserving was going to get left off. For me, it was as difficult a choice as I've ever had.
I know from the guys who got in that they were, as you said, slam dunk ones. You also included Biggio in there. He didn't make it. He, in many ways, like Piazza and others on the list, never formally identified, but the rumor mill said that they were part of the steroid era. You must have had fascinating conversations over drinks with other sports writers. Who decides where innuendo is solid enough to become fact, or at least to punish? It seems to me the definition of a gray area.
Well, that's the problem, Rich, is that there is no hard and fast rule as to how to deal with the steroid area. We've certainly gotten no guidance from the Hall of Fame on this, but Selig won't touch it. So we're really sort of on our own to make up the rules as we go along. I mean, do you hold it against a player who had good offensive statistics during the steroid era? Are you going to say that because he was associated with that period of time, that he was a likely user or a probable user, and for that reason you won't vote for him? I mean, that's a reason why Piazza hasn't gotten in so far, although his vote did go from 57% last year to 62%. But there are a lot of people out there who think that just because he was the greatest offensive hitting catcher in baseball history, and he happened to do it at a time when steroids are rampant, he must be a juicer as well. He must have cheated. For me, I hold it to a much higher standard. I mean, I have to know for a fact that somebody was using steroids before I withhold my vote from him.
Help me with, help me if you will, Bob. Help me with this distinction, because I know for you said no way, no how McGwire or A-Rod ever get your vote, but you're not sure when it comes to Clemens or Bonds definitively one way or the other. You could argue put all 4 of those guys in the same bucket. They've all admitted, or certainly the court of public opinion has enough, at least ancillary evidence, to say they all cheated. How do you make distinctions when you look at those 4?
Well, specific to Bonds and Clemens, I mean, there is no hard and fast proof that they knowingly took steroids. I mean, the government was unable to prove this. I mean, the government spent $2 million trying to convict Clemens on this charge, and they couldn't. And the best the government could do on Bonds was obstruction of justice. They couldn't get him either. I mean, if the government can't do it, and Bud Selig is not going to weigh in on this, not even to put an asterisk next to the records, then don't ask me as a baseball writer to be an investigator, a pharmacist, a prosecutor. Really, I need something more than that. I really need hard proof. And if the feds can't do it, I'm not going to do it either.
If you had to guess, finally, when this gets resolved, if ever, that's been the problem. There's been never any clarity. Do you see at a certain point someone saying, all right, we're going to create a separate wing, or we're going to do the asterisks? Does this just drag on here, into no man's land? Is there any clarity? I mean, I don't envy you how you vote here with so much, guesswork up in the air. Maybe the next commissioner is going to, give us some hard and fast rules as to how this era should be viewed. Clemens and Bonds, they both went down this year, so I think they've got a long road ahead of them. Piazza went up, so I think he's got a shot. But do I think there's any real standard being applied here right now in the near future? I don't see it. I think most people will continue to see Hank Aaron as a legitimate home run champion, and they'll see Barry Bonds' home run total as sort of as cartoonish as it deserves to be for steroids. But I just don't see anything on the horizon that would make a vote any easier next year or years to come, unfortunately. Hey, Bob, thank you very much for a few. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
How would you guys do it? Because honestly, there's no
wrong.
easy standard.
He's wrong. Tell
me how you really think.
He's assuming that a legal standard, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, is the standard you use in an election to a Hall of Fame that has no legal standard. There's a way out of this. They should ask each one of these guys who wants to be in the Hall of Fame, did you use steroids? Just ask them and let them answer. If they say no, then you can at least.
Wouldn't Pete Rose have been in then?
Well, but
If they asked me if you ever bet on
wait, no,
the game.
that's not the end of it. At least then you can then decide who comes forward and says what the other evidence is. They also, some of them, control the evidence. Bonds can have the evidence of his test released. Make them do it. Just, if you want in, give us the truth.
We don't need a judicial process and all this. Look, if it was up to me, I'd let everybody in, just based on when they're on the field merits. If you're the best player of your era, then you deserve to get in. But honestly, the real harm here is to the
What do you say to the other guys who played the right way and don't get in because they didn't
I don't know
cheat?
what to tell you. I'm sorry, but you weren't the most dominant player of your generation. I feel badly. I feel bad about that, but. The Hall of Fame is supposed to be about the best players of the generation.
Not
My problem is with the
best honest players, not the best cheating players.
My problem is with Baseball Hall of Fame. I love that place. I haven't been there in years. I love that place. You couldn't pay me to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame right now because it's just not on the level. It's not. There's no coherent sense of what this place is or what it's supposed to be or what it honors or what it doesn't honor. It's just a fun little baseball amusement park.
If you haven't been
right
to
now.
Cooperstown, it's one of the most magical places you go to, and unfortunately, I think Andrew's right, and to me it's just so convoluted, but there's no easy way out. As much as you say there's a way,
ask them.
There's no easy. You can ask them. These guys lied their whole lives. Why do we think all of a sudden now
and then
honesty's going to
Then
dawn
ask them
on?
to release the test results that they control.
What do you want to do? Take it away from writers? Have players make the votes?
No, I want the
have fans
writers
do the
to
votes?
ask and seek
then
the
you gotta go
evidence.
through a
This is a
court process, a
perfect
lie
way to
detector
end this
test.
with conflict. And I can always count on my friend Richard to help me with that. Richard, Dominic, Andrew, thank you all very much. All right, when we come back, we'll bring our legal panel on. Who decides when the worst has happened, who gets to live or not? And that conversation is actually taking place in two places in America tonight where the courts are involved here. We're going to get into that conversation much more straight ahead.